When two New York college boys find themselves in trouble, they call the only person that can help them. Their loudmouth, leather jacket wearing, hungry for an argument, Cousin Vinny. The slick-talking lawyer is against all odds as he attempts to break the chain of traditional Southern rule. Will he prove those who doubt him wrong, or will he just be another failed Yankee? I'm James Hawkinjos, and this is The Rewind.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Hey guys, this is Jimmy, and you're listening to The Rewind, presented by House of Habit Podcast Network.
Your scientists are so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they just don't think.
Never tell me the odds.
The Rewind.
The Rewind.
The Rewind.
It's showtime.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Rewind. James Hawkinjos here. Gage is still on his barstool run. Today, filling in his chair, we have Emily's partner, TigerPack Productions, Mr. Vinny Cotroneo.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So today, you picked the movie, so you want to announce it for the people?
Fitting because it's my name. My Cousin Vinny, a classic comedy from, I think it was 1990. Was it 1992? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the funniest movies ever made, and it still holds up to this day.
It was great. We watched it last night.
Wait, before we go into that, talk about your credentials, Vinny.
Yes,
because we haven't
thank
done
you.
that.
I knew I was forgetting something.
This is
We like to
weird,
forget
weird
that.
to self-promote.
No, I usually don't forget it.
Obviously, TigerPack Productions, director, producer, screenwriter. Screenwriting has been my specialty for quite a number of years. So, and also just a film enthusiast, film lover. Yeah, I'm just all around love good cinema, you know?
And schooling in film, right?
So I went to Rowan University in South Jersey, and I have a degree in English, and I'm gonna go back and get my degree in master's degree in creative writing. But yeah, I've been absorbed to like story and all that stuff for a really long time. So I love looking at it in film and more recently in novels and stuff. But yeah, I think it's super fun.
We like to say Vinny has an honorary SVA directing degree because of how much time he spent with us in filmmaking and stuff like that when we were in school. So like, he's kind of like what we are. Me and Gage are at the same level almost with education because we just regurgitated everything that was taught to us. So
I have more friends that are alum from SVA than I do from Rowan. And that's crazy.
I got at least 2 days as an on-set extra work at SBA.
yeah, you did.
At least 2 days.
You did.
So I got some PA work under my belt.
That was
Gage.
Oh, it was Gage.
Well,
sorry.
Jack was involved in the project. Who was the SBA student.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, so My Cousin Vinny. I guess I saw this movie in the first time. I think I was in junior high. For like, I want to say like 7th grade or something like that. I thought it was the funniest thing ever because you said it last night, is we know people like these guys. Like we grew up with people like these guys, like Vinny and Mona Lisa, and they like, especially during that time period when we were born in the early 90s and stuff like that. Like that was still kind of a style. It was still around and stuff like that, you know?
92 when they're from Brooklyn in this movie. I was born in Staten Island, New York in 1993. I mean, I showed you the pictures of my mother last night.
Yeah.
I know at least 7 women growing up who were Marissa Tomei in this movie.
Oh my God, yeah. It's so crazy because like people will look at that and assume it's a stereotype, but I'm like, it's not. Like you'd be surprised. Like it's interesting. I didn't know about this movie until I was a teenager. So before that, like my cousins would introduce me naturally as, oh, this is my cousin Vinny, and everybody would laugh, and I'm like, what the hell's everybody laughing about? Like, what's so funny? I was like, do I have something on me? Like, and then I found out what the movie was, and then I watched it, and I'd be like, oh, okay, now I know why it's so funny.
So this is another one. Like we're on a run right now of movies that I don't have my first memory of because it's so early in my life. As a kid, all the time, Vinny Riggio. My longtime friend who we borrowed the DVD from, watched it on an old school DVD last night. It would just always be on when we were hanging out as kids. So like 9 or 10, 11 maybe was the oldest I was the last time I saw it. Not the first time, the last time before last night. So it was good to watch because I haven't seen like well over 10, 15 years now. So it was good to watch it again. It's good to see a movie that you remember being great as a kid hold up.
Oh,
all
yeah.
these years later.
And I think that's the joy of streaming too, because now we have so much more access to films of the past and like you can actually go back and get that nostalgia. streaming is like totally revitalized that genre.
I had that thought last night because we pop in the DVD, and this is like probably 02, 03, like when DVDs were first came out and made accessible. So before you even get to the title screen, like an old school VHS, it gives you the Fox DVD rundown, and it's X-Men 1. Pulp Fiction was on there, right?
I don't even remember.
It was a couple, like they did that commercial of like,
Titanic,
these are,
I think.
these are all the DVDs you have to have. And I was thinking about it, like back in the day, you needed to build your own personal collection. Otherwise, you would just never see stuff again. And now I thought with streaming, like I can see something I haven't thought of, like my Cousin Vinny in 15 years, and now remember how much I love that movie. So it is great, the streaming aspect of it, for sure.
Even the streaming of like purchasing the downloads now, because like I almost bought. Remember we were talking about I almost bought it the other day because I was like, oh, it's not on anything, and I do have the DVD somewhere, but I wasn't going searching for it when I could just buy it. And having that access when I went to France, I had all of these movies that I've had seen for years, like Jurassic Park and like Casablanca, all these older films that we're able to just collect in such an easier format. It makes technology has made life easier, but I guess harder in a way too, because now we have all this information in front of us.
It's the age of convenience.
It's the age of confusion.
Well, that too, yeah. I mean, because you get confused by like the amount, by how convenient everything is. But I'm not gonna lie, like when I was younger, like seeing those old VHS tapes, like having that voice like coming soon to video, like I would get so pumped. I'm like, oh, what's next?
But what do you know the rating way, the way we rate on the show? Because I know you do that. Vinny, for everyone who doesn't know, does most of our video editing too. He's actually from Jersey, but we film on Long Island, so he came up for this. But we are coastal here. We work all over the coast here, so you know the layout of the show pretty well. But do you know the scoring?
Well, your ratings, just I want to hear like what you would give this film.
It's the good old Barstool Pizza review, 1 to 10 decimals count. See, like I was thinking about it last night, and I had it somewhere in like the high 7, low 8 range, but I think I gotta bump that up. I don't know if I'm gonna give it a 9 right now, but I'm gonna go 8.7.
So
here's part of my reasoning for why I'm not gonna go 9, even though this doesn't pertain to me. Since we are from the area where a lot of these jokes and I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypes, they hit very close to home for us. It's not as relatable to somebody who's from like Palo Alto.
Yes.
So I think we're in a very specific niche market for it that makes us want to give it a 10. So I'm just gonna throw that in there. Go 8.7.
I'm really glad you said that, because one of my biggest notes in this film was that it's for a New York market, and they established that right out of the gate, because you see these two guys who they're not from the South.
Yeah, they're not.
And they're driving through the streets and all that stuff. And I think it's a perfect opening credit sequence. Oh, but I'll get back to the point on the number, because I downgraded it from a 9 to an 8 on IMDb, because I rate things on IMDb because I like to.
You're
keep,
one of those.
I'm one of those. I like to keep I like to keep track of how much I watch. And I take it so fucking seriously. It's not even funny. It's like I have to sit after every movie I go to. I have to sit and have like a fucking debriefing. I'm like, all right, it just doesn't. The Godfather's a 10 in my book, but I have to go back. Maybe a 9 or an 8. I'm usually if it's,
I want to see the notes.
We have to have quarterly fucking ranking updates. Every quarter we have to change it. There can only be so many 8s. If somebody's gonna jump up to an 8, we got to drop somebody else down.
Hundreds. I have hundreds of titles. I have hundreds of titles on my fucking IMDb rating list.
I've known you for so long. I've never known
I'm
this
surprised
about
I never even told you that.
Never ever spilled this secret with me.
Later, if we come back from a break, I'll fucking pull my phone and I'll show you how many fucking titles I have.
I feel like now we're just gonna have to start every time we release a rewind. We're gonna have to also release Vinny's IMDb score.
He
has it just ahead of Titanic, but
fucking Titanic is at a 6.
Just below.
Titanic is at a that did not impress me at all.
Just above by Titanic, but just below Jurassic Park 2.
I don't know.
You're learning. I love how you have like a whole new label. This is the first time I'm hearing this from like a whole.
I can't believe.
While
you
we're
just
still
said that.
getting over the shock of this, you probably know this about me already, but this is gonna make the two of you hate me and probably a lot of other people. If you're watching something and you can't think of an actor's name, you pull up the movie, go to IMDb to find out who it is. Correct?
Yes.
I'm a Wikipedia guy.
IMDb's the thing, you know that, right?
I know.
Dude, IMDb is the thing,
I
bro.
literally pulled up My Cousin Vinny last night while we were watching it to check something on Wikipedia.
My God, I think I've just been so preconditioned to hate Wikipedia that when you said that, and I was like, "That's a joke, right?" No,
No, that's
being dead
he's
serious.
full of facts.
Do you have the
there.
Wikipedia app, or you just
No,
go
no,
on?
I just Google
So you go through. I'm gonna hit Google, then type in
Google it,
Wikipedia,
and then I click the Wikipedia link. I Google My Cousin Vinny. The first thing that comes up is the Wikipedia link, and I click it. And I'm like, oh, Marissa Tomei.
and that is why Wikipedia is still alive.
It's single-handedly because of Jameson the Rewind.
I'm very impressed, though. I've never heard anybody use Wikipedia for movie trivia.
Yeah. If I'm like, oh, who directed that? I Google it. If it comes right up when you Google it, I won't go to Wikipedia. Like if what I'm looking for, because sometimes you Google it, it comes right up in the little blurb.
Would you ever consider getting the IMDb app?
I just don't see a reason for it. You're talking to the same person who used Pandora, free Pandora radio, instead of Apple Music or iTunes or anything else.
Did you ever do the whole download to MP3 thing before that, or? Were you
No, I
buying Apple
never
Music?
was a YouTube to MP3 thing. But as a kid, Brian, our man from Parlez-Vous, he would just download his iTunes onto my iPod. Like I didn't have iTunes as a kid. I would just have friends, like drug dealers, who I would get songs from on my iPod that way.
It is crazy because like past music is like the modern day drug trade.
Because my dad's in IT.
Yeah.
He's a hardware project manager, whatever. He's been in IT for 40 plus years now.
Right.
He was never we're never having LimeWire or Napster or any of this bullshit on my computer. And 99 cents a song and get the fuck out of here. That's not happening either. So I had to go and like make barters with my friends.
They would scare the shit out of us with like LimeWire. They're like, you're gonna get so many viruses and all that stuff. And I'm like, they're treating it like it was like, porn.
They did. LimeWire did fuck your shit up.
Me and Steve destroyed so many computers in our lifetime with LimeWire and Napster and all the shit that because we downloaded movies. Like we downloaded everything. Like we didn't care. It was give us that material. I can confidently say, though, I do not get the facts for this show from Wikipedia. They are researched facts. So
there was one thing I did look up on
for
Wikipedia.
Facts. I'm looking for.
I felt it had to be said because Wikipedia was brought up.
I'm looking for the cast, who directed it, usually who wrote it, like somebody in the who produced it, whatever, shit like that. Or runtime. Like I'm never looking for a fun fact from Wikipedia.
But you can get all of that with IMDb.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, but I'm a man stuck in my ways, Vinny. All right.
I admire the fact that you've stayed retro.
Retro.
I think that
yeah, there's a reason why we can't cite Wikipedia. But anyway, I scored this. Honestly, when I was thinking about it and I was doing the research for it, because I did the research before watching the movie, like rewatching the movie, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, like it's definitely like a high 8 for me and this and that. And then I was rewatching it, I was like, honestly, I don't think it is. Like, I think it's more, I want to say it's like an 8.2, 8.3, somewhere around there, because it is a niche market. It is still hysterical. I did laugh, that there is somewhat.
I just wanted to add something. You could have finished your thought. I just wanted to add something. Another reason I forgot to bring this
You
up
got two
before.
teachers sitting here. You see it. We see hand go up. Our attention's fully
Another
on you.
reason why I bump it from the high, like possible 7.9, 8.2 range to an 8.7 is because, as far as the legal scenes go, incredibly accurate.
Yes.
Very well done.
Yes.
Very well received. Used to teach law classes.
Yeah, which I'll go into in the facts because the director, Jonathan Lynn, has a law degree.
Yes, I
He's a
knew
lawyer.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he wanted that accuracy. It was like a big deal. But that was one reason why I kept it in the 8s, because it's very, very well done on those scenes. I mean, the cross-examination is fantastic. It's very rare that we truly get to see a cross-examination done multiple times like that in either TV or movie. I would say the only other movie I can think of off the top of my head would be A Few Good Men, which honestly too, I might be wrong.
I'd say To Kill a Mockingbird as well.
To Kill a Mockingbird, yeah.
A Few Good Men is horrendous. as far as its legal procedure.
No, I'm not saying about the legal procedure. I'm saying where you see both the cross and that.
Possibly. I haven't even seen that movie. The last time I watched it, we probably put it on and fell asleep 15 minutes in.
Yeah. Oh, you know what?
Not a
Actually,
Tom Cruise
which I thought was not in terms of legal procedures, but was a very good show of both defense and prosecution. Was the trial of the Chicago 7, which was. You would like it. It was Sacha Baron Cohen and
that just came out, right?
Yes,
yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that yet.
It was fantastic, but that had I really enjoyed the court scenes there, and being someone that like I love law, like I'm a big law person. Definitely heavily when I was looking at college, just considered possibly going into law and doing defense and stuff like that. I obviously, as we all know, I love Law and Order and SVU, which is also held at a decently high standard in terms of procedural stuff when it comes to the police. Not so much the courtrooms. Law and Order, the courtroom stuff is pretty good, but SVU, the police interrogations are held up more. But yeah, I do hold this at a really high regard in terms of that. But there's just some things where it's like, you know, it's an older movie, so we're now in 2021, when we watch films like that, there's things where I'm thinking in my head, it's like, you know, this and that, and I have to remember. It's like, wait, this is made in 92. Like, we have to talk about it for its time period. Because for 92, it's a good film. You know, it's good camera work, it's solid editing. I mean, it's a pretty coloring. But it's just like, it just kind of is what it is. Like, I don't know how to explain. Sometimes I want a little more from the characters. And I think that's me not being a massive comedy person.
Who? Who do you need more from?
I see. That's the thing. It was like
Marissa Tomei doesn't have any more to give you, and she won the goddamn Oscar.
No.
She is everything a supporting actress should be in that movie. She's perfect.
Pesci doesn't have much more to give.
I know, and that's what it is, and that's why I'm questioning why I'm left wanting more.
Even if Ralph Macchio could give you more, I mean,
how much more
for
do you
the
want
scope
from
of his character, you don't need much more. So
I know.
Who do you want more from?
That's what I'm saying. I can't tell you. I just had that feeling of wanting more of something, and I can't tell you what exactly it was. I think honestly, I'll probably watch it after maybe tomorrow. I'll rewatch it and try to figure it out because
I do think that they sidelined Bill and Stan. And like the middle of the second act, they're kind of like pushed off to the side because like you said, there's nothing really more that like, yeah, they're in jail and they're scared and they're constantly butting heads. That's it. You know, like that. There's really nothing more.
You know what it is about them? They're the setup.
They're
the setup of the movie.
They're not really super, while they're like pivotal to the central plot of the movie, they're not really important to the story that's being told, other than they're just the little linchpin in the grenade.
They're the exposition to Vinny's story.
Maybe that's why I have a problem with it, is because you have two characters who are truly just exposition.
Yeah.
And I hate
But they handle it. I think they handle it perfectly.
It is,
like there's the amount of setup that leads to Vinny, it's really not that much, and you get everything. Like I think, and what we were talking about before about the New York market, they established that like right out of the gate, because what's the first thing that Bill says when they go to jail? I'm calling my mother. How grounded is that to our society? You know, like in the tri-state area, especially like New York, New Jersey, like that's the vibe. We get that right away. And we are immediately latched onto these characters based on that precedent. And then when Vinny comes, it's like, if we didn't get that set up before, that would have been like, who the fuck is this guy coming in here, you know? With cowboy boots and like...
The whole phone call, when you don't even hear what's going on the other end of the phone, you just hear, Ma, no, we didn't do it.
Exactly.
Nah, Ma, calm, it's going to be okay. We need a lawyer. How much could a lawyer cost? Like $100,000. That whole thing.
Yeah.
That whole thing tells you the story, and then you see Joe Pesci pull up, and it's fucking game time.
Yeah, and it's his movie. Like what you were saying before, with this movie, it's tough because like it's his show, and we're just and everybody along to the side is just like there to give him the setup to his punchline.
Oh yeah, and I think that's why you have to hold Marissa Tomei at such a high regard, because she holds her own against him while everyone else is sidelined by him. I don't think she's sidelined by him at all. I think she completely holds her own with her comedy, with her acting, with her presence on screen. I mean, she's gorgeous in this movie. But yeah, I would definitely put this somewhere around like between Vinny, like an 8.8, between 8 and 8.3. I might even drop it down to a 7.9, honestly. I know it's kind of a wide range, but that's like, it's kind of where I'm at. with watching it. But I do love it. It's a great
All right,
movie.
you gotta close the gap by the end of the show.
I'll close the gap by the end of the show. Maybe you guys can convince me. I guess let's take a quick break and then we'll come in with some facts.
All right, what's up, guys? As everyone knows, this season we are on YouTube. Last season we weren't, and I got to be honest with you, we were dressing like shit a little bit, you know? We weren't worried about what people saw. We were wearing pajamas. We had Anthony coming in wearing whatever sweats he wore to work that day. Half the time I'd roll out of bed and show up to the studio. But now the people are going to see us, and we got to look fresh. We want that fine Italian fucking material. That's right. We're talking Saatchi di Dinero, streetwear brand from Long Island, New York. The gear is fire. It looks good. Right now, I got the M5 Motivated Money Making Monday morning hoodie on, okay? You're going to be able to get this and so much more at SaatchiDiDinero.com. Promo code HAVOC is going to save you 10% off. That's SaatchiDiDenero.com. HAVOC. Promo code HAVOC gets you 10% off. Always authentic, never counterfeit. Saatchi di Dinero. All right, what's up, guys? We're back. Emily's got some fun facts from the internet research we're going to go through right now.
The internet research, not from Wikipedia. So director was Jonathan. It's not at all.
A little bit from Wikipedia.
No, 0 from Wikipedia. I can guarantee you
little
that.
bit.
Nope, don't do that. Don't believe in Wikipedia. Director Jonathan Lynn, writer Dale Lauren, cinematographer Peter Deming, editor Tony Lombardo and Stephen E. Rivkin. Cast Joe Pesci as Vinny Gambini, Ralph Macchio as Bill Gambini, Marissa Tomei as Mona Lisa Vito, Mitchell Whitefield as Stan Rothenstein, Fred Gwaine as Judge Chamberlain, Haller, right? Haller. Lane Smith as Jim Trotter III. Runtime was 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. Rated R. Location. Do you know the film location?
I want to say they filmed it in Georgia.
Yeah, it's
They
in Georgia. I
did.
forget the name of the town.
They
Cheap as
filmed it
fuck to shoot there.
in
huh?
Georgia. I want to say it was Jasper County they filmed it in. But I think I have it written down. Release date was March 13th, 1992. Budget was $11 million estimated. Box office was $7.5 million the weekend. And then the worldwide was $64 million. The camera was Panavision, which is 92. That's, what you're using. The awards were Best Supporting Actress in the role which Marissa Tomei won for the Oscar. And that was the only thing that was nominated or won. And then, so some facts was the misunderstanding of youths in the scene.
Youths?
Yeah, that actually happened between the director and Pesci, because of Pesci's accent, and Jonathan Lynn is from England, so he just didn't understand Jesse's.
God.
Yeah, he just didn't understand Pesci's accent, so they had that. He ended up putting it in the script. Lynn has a law degree and won Proceedings Accurate, praised for accuracy and even shown in law schools. It is knocking over the chessboard when that scene when they're talking about his name was an accident, and they actually decided to keep that in because it was so funny.
That makes it so much funnier.
Yeah, it really does. And then too, because they cut a lot in that scene to his reaction, so that means that they had to then tell him, okay, we're adding this cut take of your face and stuff like that of you reacting to knocking this over. So the American Bar Association rated it number 3 on the 25 greatest legal movies of all time. And I actually wrote down some of them. Let me pull them up real quick. So number 1 was To Kill a Mockingbird. 2, 12 Angry Men. This was number 3. 4, Autonomy of a Murder. And then 5 was Inherit the Wind. So makes sense that To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Let's see. The owl screech was real in the woods.
That was,
Yeah,
The
and
Owl Screech is amazing.
yeah, and apparently Jonathan Lynn in the director commentaries was like, I don't know how we got so lucky to get that owl to screech like it did. So that
Was that written in the script, or did it just happen like there's an owl in the woods and we're just going to shoot with that?
no, I think that the owl just happened.
That's crazy.
Like they were planning on using an owl. Like I think it was like
Right.
actually there, but something about the screeching and the way it happened like was natural. Like maybe it was his reaction to it. I'm not really sure, but the notes weren't that specific there. But just said the owl screech was real. The prosecutor, automotive expert convo, like when he first comes in, not the second time, was actually verbatim from a court transcript. So that was taken directly. I'm not sure. It didn't say what case it was from, but it said it was directly from court transcript. Sheriff Talman was the actual sheriff of Jasper County where they shot most of the film, and them saying Sheriff Talman in Jasper County caught the guys was a nod to him, and it's like a thank you for keeping like everything smooth, because they apparently he like really helped them out and just made things really easy for them with filming. The only Mrs. Robinson line where he's like, and only Mrs. or not Robinson, what's her name?
Oh, with the glasses?
The glasses.
Riley.
Riley.
Yeah.
They're like, he's like, and only Mrs. Riley. That was ad-libbed. It was just supposed to be,
funny.
I think, like when she says it again. This was the final feature for Fred Gwynne. Beacom County is not real, where they were there. Actually, most of the counties that they say they're from or in are not real. Joe Pesci won for Goodfellas during the production and showed off his Oscar to everyone on set in like Pesci fashion. Pesci and Gwynne were actually really good friends up until Gwynne died. Alabama has the longest constitution at 3,000 words, and the U.S. is a little over 4,000 words. So, saying like judge telling Pesci to know the Constitution that by the next day was near impossible.
His reaction to that was perfect. He was like, "Just this."
When I saw that it's 300,000 words versus the U.S. Constitution being 4,000, I was like, that's a little much. Like, I don't know. What do you have in 300? You know what? I don't want to even ask that question.
It's
I don't want to know what you have. It's Alabama. So who knows? Who knows what's in that Constitution? Who knows I'm so curious to see what's in that Constitution that's just like, doesn't like obsolete. Like we're not even sure. Yeah, like that's,
Operate the electric chair. This is how you turn it on. This is how you turn it off.
Do they have death penalty in Alabama?
In the movie they did. I don't know if they still do.
No, in the movie they did, but
No, I don't think anywhere has a death penalty.
No, I think it's the electric chair is like
the electric chair.
No,
one has the chair.
I know places
I've said
have,
before. I think we need the chair back.
Places have death penalties, and apparently one state is looking at bringing back the firing squad.
Firing squad's a good one,
So
but I'm a fan of the electric chair.
You could turn it into a Wi-Fi hotspot.
I mean that.
I just think there's something to the pub. We kind of talked about this in Gangs in New York. There's something to public executions that I think we're missing in today's society.
It's consequence. Like it's sitting in jail for the rest of your life.
It's the idea of the public consequence. Like,
Yeah.
You're just going out to get a gallon of milk and you see somebody get hung and you're like, well, fuck, what'd he do? Like, we stole a gallon of milk.
Enthusiastic corruption of the public good.
Yeah.
It's like Les Miserables. Like, oh, he stole a loaf of bread. I'm not fucking doing that. That's for sure.
Fear.
19 years.
But that's a whole other. We're not even getting there.
I can't.
No way.
Don't start Les Mis with me. I can't contain myself. The temperature in the courtroom scenes exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so they were all dying because apparently it was built in like a tin warehouse and stuff like that. So it just got super hot. Gwynne actually graduated from Harvard on the GI Bill. He has like a Yale thing in his back. But Jim Belushi says he regretted turning down the role of Vinny. Christopher Lloyd was considered for the judge. Lorraine Bracco for Mona Lisa, who is do you know who Lorraine Bracco is? She was in The Sopranos. She was the therapist.
Means nothing.
I know, that's right. Danny DeVito was also considered.
Oh, he would have been good.
And that was pretty much most of the notes. It wasn't like too crazy of
I have to stop you right there.
Yeah.
You didn't say Vinny's full name. It's Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, which is fucking hysterical.
I forgot that was that. Actually, that's incredible.
And it's literally wrote out L.A. space capital G like LaGuardia.
Oh my god. I didn't even realize that.
Vincent LaGuardia Gambini and Mona Lisa Vito.
Yeah, the
are
Mona
their
Lisa.
names.
Yeah. And apparently there was a note, I don't know how true it was, that said that her last name being Vito was a nod to his Goodfellas character.
Makes sense.
There was a line that Stan said when he was like, what was he before he was a lawyer? A fucking comedian? So I was like, is that like a nod to Goodfellas as well? Where Joe Pesci was like, oh, what am I, a clown? Do I amuse you? Am I a comedian? Or something? I don't know. That's just something that I picked up. I don't know if it was intentional. But
I didn't see any notes about it. There honestly weren't that many notes for the film that I could find. Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's a pretty straightforward film. It's not like it's crazy action or anything like that, where you're dealing with all these special effects and all these crazy things. Like with Jurassic Park, like that had so many facts because there was so much about the CGI and the animatronics and all this stuff. But for this, it's pretty, it's a
pretty
point and
cut
shoot film.
Pretty cut and dry
Yeah.
cinematography here.
Yeah.
1992, we're just shooting a film.
It's hard to do a comedy in a courtroom. So that's why I think this film stands out. And that's why I think it's number 3, because how dry could a courtroom scene be?
Watch To Kill a
Oh, my
Mockingbird.
God.
Yeah, I mean, it's
fuck.
because it's so old that you appreciate the nostalgia of To Kill a Mockingbird. But if that same film came out today, I'd be like, I could go to court and watch this myself. So
Even sometimes SVU, it's like, wow,
it's
this
like
is dry.
it's one thing of being accurate and making something that people can say like, oh, this could really happen, but at the same time making something funny and having it be more funny than then investing yourself in the courtroom situation. You're just there to watch Vinny. It's so impressive that they were able to pull that off. Like there was one part where I was like, when he was like, everything that guy just said is bullshit. I'm like, okay, now we're hitting more slapstick. Like this is it's meant to be stupid and funny, but like everything other than that, like how he reacts to certain things, and it feels like something like that could happen in a courtroom.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like you said, as far as like a courtroom drama, I'm all fucking set. I'm all set. If you're having 2 hours of a drama take place primarily in a courtroom, as this movie does, take place primarily in the courthouse, I'm all set on that. So like, because it can be dry and boring, and if you're gonna tell like a serious drama story in that setting, it's gonna be way too dry for me. I'm not making 25 minutes into it.
Yeah.
I think that's why I thought the Chicago 7 was so good, because it does mostly take place in a courtroom, but it's not dry. It can get a little dry. Of course, the material is a little dry, but it's such interesting material and stuff like that, and they do it in such a way that it keeps you involved and keeps you interested. That it's something like this movie does with the comedy. Like I feel like with having that comedy there, really it keeps you invested because the next joke's coming. It's
And even though it is incredibly accurate and correct in the procedure and inside of the courthouse, it's not made for somebody who understands that. The target audience isn't somebody who understands what's going on in court procedure. It's somebody who probably knows next to nothing about it, the general audience, right?
Mm.
So you're making something that seems sophisticated and difficult and complicated. You need to go all these years of schooling to understand it, relatable to the average schmuck who works for New York Sanitation or something,
Yeah, and I think it's great too when they ask him like how many, like they're talking about him passing the bar. He's like, "Oh, I've been practicing law for 6 weeks," and they're like, "Oh, well, why?" He's like, "Well, I was studying for the bar like for 6 years," and it's like that whole thing, and it's funny because it's like this blue collar guy that was a mechanic that now is like took him 6 years to pass the bar because and honestly, he probably couldn't pass the bar. He's probably a bad test taker. Because like the bar is very difficult and very.
He's got reasons for why he was kind of slacking, if they want to use that word. Like everything he's got, everything he does is for a reason, and like his whole backstory, it's like it's justified. Like he doesn't seem like a slacker. Like he actually cares. And that's kind of what attracted me to this character the most. Is like you feel bad for the guy because he's trying. Mm-hmm. Like that one scene where he's like sitting and they're sitting in the hotel and he's like, I'm really scared. Like that hits, and it's you take him seriously as a character, not just as a punchline, you know. And then the next scene is literally him being told that they want to go with the public defender. So
yeah, that's
you really
right.
feel bad for the guy,
And then he gives you the heartfelt speech about give me one chance, and if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing, then you can fire me and go with the public defender. Which that aspect of it was the one thing that I was curious about, like. Can you really just fire your fucking lawyer in the middle of litigation and go, I'm going with this guy? Like, could you do that?
Yeah, actually, theoretically, you could because he knows the whole trial. So
I guess because you're in that situation where the two of them are kind of on trial for the same thing. But let's say they're up there with one defendant and with one defender, and they want to fire him mid-trial. What? It would never go on the same day. They would have to.
Well, yeah, it actually would probably they'd either put it into a recess of finding a new lawyer and catching him up to speed, or it would go into a mistrial and it would just start over from the beginning. More than likely, it would probably be a mistrial and they would just start over from the beginning with a new lawyer. But there have been cases of multiple defendants in the same trial having different lawyers, and then that lawyer assuming on other defendants and keeping the trial going because that lawyer is privy to all knowledge going on. Like it's not like it's a prosecution person coming into the defense where they're not privy to the knowledge. The theory is that the lawyers, if you have 2 or 3 lawyers, like say you have 2 lawyers and 2 defendants, the lawyers should be privy to all information, like because they're pretty much defending them together. They're on trial together. These lawyers are going to be working together. So it's I don't know how common it is or how often it's happened, but it has happened. So.
And the other thing with that's funny is the whole thing that Stan, the whole deal he brings up to Bill when they're playing Jailhouse Hoops, shout out Jailhouse Hoops, is he can wind up in cross-examination, wind up giving the prosecution more to work with and defending their case. And then that's exactly what the public defender does.
Exactly. Yeah. So. And
that's where he goes, fuck this guy.
Well,
I want him.
I think that was such a great scene too with the public defender when like all of a sudden the guy looks over and he's like, Brown and Hazel Green, and you just see the public defender's face and he's like, no more questions for you.
You see the life just leave his face.
Kudos to that guy, because honestly, that guy did a great job between the stutter, and I think he actually truly does have a stutter, that actor. And I believe in the notes it was he had trouble finding jobs because he was typecasted as a stutterer. So he didn't want to do this role, but he was friends with Lynn and ended up coming on for the role. And he's perfect for it. The way he does it, I don't know if that's his true stutter, or if he's making it worse, but it works phenomenally in this, especially when he pats Stan on the shoulder as he's getting up. No, it's before that. It's as he's getting up to question.
He
like
I remember what we talked about. He's like, I got this.
Yeah, he just pats him on the shoulder, like he's all confident and swanky. It was such a great.
I'm getting better.
It's so good. It was such a great moment.
And there are stakes to this film. You know, like obviously, well, the kids could get fried, but Vinny has stakes. You know, he's got something to work for, and you got to.
He's got something to prove to himself too, that he can actually do this thing. Now, he's in the worst situation possible because you're a bunch of New Yorkers in Alabama in the early '90s where they don't really like you, so they're kind of everyone has already agreed in the most fair way possible that we're just we got these guys, we got evidence, we're gonna put them away. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're really, we want a conviction. We don't want the truth necessarily.
Yeah, and you see that actually in the scene where the prosecutor announces the expert witness, and Vinny gets up and he's like, well, like I didn't know about this, I'm not privy to this.
Yeah.
And the judge is like, that was an excellent argument, overruled. And that would never fly. That's cause for mistrial. Because that type of expert witness.
I've read that people like critics or whatever, not citing this, I don't know who the fuck said it. I read it somewhere in preparation for this, that they wrote one of the reasons the movie works so well is that there's no really true bad guy. And I fucking disagree, because I think the entire prosecution in the state of Alabama is the bad guy.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It's
because they're arguing that everybody just wants to find the truth in the end, but I disagree because I don't feel that the judge or the prosecution or the sheriff until the very end is interested in finding out the truth.
They're just doing their jobs. Yeah.
They're just interested in the fastest conviction possible.
Right.
But even the sheriff at the end, when he gets on trial, he was like, I took it upon myself because I had a hunch. When he just questioned Vinny on why, he's like, tell me why. Like, I need to look for this. Like, he wasn't going to do it just because Vinny asked him to. He needed the reason that, hey, I really don't believe these kids did it. I think it was actually this type of car, not this car, whatever it would be. So I kind of got that feeling with, it's like, almost like a Union versus like the Yankees versus the Confederate feeling in a way, where it's Northern boys coming down to the Bible Belt, causing a ruckus, and
he says that to them.
Yeah, I know, but I mean it on more of a like an even deeper level than just at face value, because as I was watching this, I got a lot of feelings about, I don't know if you've ever read it, but the Monkey Trials, which it's very similar to this. It's about the Monkey Trials, which were about the separation of church and state, that court case that was down south with the teacher who was teaching evolution and then got fired and was being prosecuted for it. That the lawyer who comes down to defend him is a big New York bigwig, and he's fighting the local home guy prosecutor from whatever it was, Georgia, Alabama, who's this big shot in the South. And it is this dynamic of the prosecution is your antagonist the entire time in that story. And it's just like kind of like this New Yorker who's just trying to do right by his client. And I got a lot of that feeling in this film. I don't know if that was like reference. I don't know if there was any connection to that, but it was something I did notice in watching it this most recent time.
I do agree with you that the state of Alabama, like the society or whatever, the system is the antagonist of the film, because everybody else is just like pawns in the system. You know, the judge being the judge, the prosecutors being the prosecutor. But like you were saying, they flip once they find out the truth, because like the prosecutor, Trotta, whatever his name is, he like says that the state would like to dismiss all charges right away after they hear that, because like, if they were going along with what the system's supposed to be, whatever, like, no, I'm gonna ride this out till the end. They stop it right away, and I think that's a nod to like humanity, I don't know, in the movie, where it's like we can acknowledge when we fucked up, you know.
Yeah, but I also think it's an interesting look at the prosecutor way of being, where it's about a conviction.
Yeah,
you know, which is something that we've seen in multiple different things.
It's also sort of this deal where Vinny's they're guilty until proven innocent, because you have now another thing that made me, I don't know if it's not necessarily the procedure, but that made me shocked to find out like how accurate it was, is because if this prosecution is just feeding these people fucking softballs. Mm-hmm. He's literally not extorting them, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Setting them up.
He's
guiding his questions to get the answers he wants.
That's how you do it. That's exactly.
He had him on transcript saying, "I shot the clerk."
This is when
no. I mean the witnesses.
Yes, that's.
He's like, it was you're never supposed to say the name and model of the car to the person. You're supposed to have the person say it to you, because then you're leading the witness.
In a police investigation, yes, you cannot do that. In a court proceeding, it's much different. In a court proceeding, the prosecutor writes the questions and the answers, and then is handed that to the witness, and the witness has to memorize that. So if I'm a witness on a stand and you're the prosecutor, you're going to hand me this, and you're going to say, okay, these are the answers. These are the questions I'm going to ask you. These are the answers. We're going to practice that, and you're going to sit in front of the prosecutor, and he's going to ask you the questions, and you're going to answer them. Then he's going to turn around and he's say, okay, now I'm going to be the defense and cross-examine you, and he's going to throw you curveballs and see how you answer them, and he's going to try and fix everything he can to prepare you to get into that court so you don't fuck up his case, because he wants that win. It is the court system is a lot. The court system is a play. The court system literally is a Broadway play. It is one of those situations. Everything is as nailed down as it possibly can be, so that they don't have any mistakes. They don't have an O.J. Simpson issue of him putting his hand in the glove and the glove not fitting. That was a massive thing that was never supposed to happen. And the prosecutor, I forgot what his name was at the time, but the girl, Marcia Clark, literally said, do not tell him to put that glove on. And he panicked because they felt he was losing the case. He got up and said, try on the glove. And then OJ was like, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
Who would have thought that would be the end
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And that's where that came from. And that blew up Marcia Clark's case. That alone ended everything. If she had a win, it was gone when that happened. And she said, do not do this, and it ended up happening. So that's it's a lot more held together than you think. And the same with the defense. When the defendant's getting up, it was the same situation. He's going to try and prepare that prosecution for as much as possible. He's also going to make sure that he's very careful on what he says and how he asks questions, because if he says the wrong thing or the defendant turns around and says, you know, like, oh, well, I remember her coming home. Like, it's a murder case and we found her dead at home and you were never home. Your alibi says you were never home. And all of a sudden you're on the stand. He's like, oh, well, I remember seeing her at this time, but you weren't supposed to be at home at that time. Now the prosecution is going to get up and say, I thought you weren't home at that time. But he wasn't allowed to ask that because, you know, it wasn't in the transcripts. Now that door's open. So there's a whole balance you have to be in. It's so careful because once a defendant opens up the door for the prosecution to start asking questions that were not allowed admissible in court, the defendant just lost their case. And the same thing can happen with the prosecution, where once prosecution just asks the wrong thing or it's responded in the wrong way or the tone is wrong. If they ask a question and all of a sudden it's a hostile tone, now the jury thinks that this is a hostile witness, that changes the jury's feeling. It's a dance, honestly. It's really amazing when you study law what goes into it, because it's very, very structured. Very structured. There are no curveballs, and that's why when there are curveballs, it's so shocking. You know, like when Jodi Arias, when it was like, what, I forget how many times that she was on the stand, it was like 7 days she was on the stand for. That was unheard of for a defendant to be on the stand that long, because the jury was allowed to ask questions. So she said all these things, and now the jury's getting up and saying, you said this, but what did you mean by that? So she stood on, Arizona thinks the only state you're allowed to do that. So by doing that, it changes the outcome of the case.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of crazy when you start looking at law, and especially different states' laws, because every state has their own procedural things, you know.
The cops never told them what they were arresting them for.
Yes, he does.
Not until after they've already got them. They think that he goes in there, he goes, oh, so you did it? He's like, yeah, I did it. And Ralph Macchio is cooperating with them the entire time because he thinks he's in there for petty larceny on a can of tuna. It's not until after he says, with a question mark on the end of it, I shot the clerk, and then they go, bang, we got our confession. He didn't even know that the clerk got shot up until that point.
No, that's from the minute go. You know,
so
it's
it's an unlawful arrest from the very beginning.
Oh, well, that's different than the prosecution, though.
Fair, but which either way, we're gonna get to it. From the very beginning, it's an unlawful arrest.
100%.
And I mean, it adds for the comedy effect, because of that whole misunderstanding is hysterical. And they play that joke throughout the film a couple of times, but like you were saying, it is an unlawful arrest right from the very beginning. But it is kind of funny because, like, in their minds, oh, we did do something wrong, but obviously not the thing that inevitably they're getting them for. But I thought that scene was absolutely hilarious.
My whole point on it is that the whole reason we're at trial to begin with is that the cops mishandled the entire arrest. Because had they realized what they were getting arrested for in the beginning, they would have never gotten themselves in the mud hole that they were in by the time they got to the arraignment.
Yeah, but you can't,
because they're working with. They're going to try to work with a confession, and the two of them admitted to doing it, and they're too young. What are they, 19? Or are they college graduates?
Young. Yeah.
No, they're like, I think they were transferring colleges.
Transferring from NYU to UCLA? I wasn't sure if they were doing grad school or what.
No, I think it was
they're
a
like
transfer.
19, 20 in this movie.
Yeah, they're kids.
And had the cops, like you lawfully are required to, no matter where you are, or in 92 for sure, you still have to say, we're arresting you for murder, or we're bringing you in for questioning for murder. You have to explain to someone why they're there. You don't just end up in the precinct in cuffs talking to a DA or a sheriff or anybody without not knowing why you're there or have been told.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's clear that this is going to be a problem from the beginning, that this is something that they're looking just to get someone, not necessarily get the right person. But you also have to think is that these are tactics that were definitely used, and probably, I wouldn't say still used, but were in 92 probably still being used. And this is stuff we saw recently with issues like this, you know? So it's not like...
My whole point is that to try to paint this movie as a movie that doesn't have a villain is just not accurate. That's the whole thing I'm getting at here.
I agree with you. I think it's.
I think there's very much a villain, and it's the entire fucking system of this fake county in Alabama.
Yeah, but I could also see like
Which
critics.
is another reason why I think we take this full circle back to the designed for a New York market. Because if you're from Alabama or anywhere else in that region, you're painted as a scumbag essentially, or dumb, because of like Miss Riley, who's literally, you see her face change right away. Oh, I guess my glasses aren't as good as I thought they were. I guess I couldn't have seen them. And then like the other guy with the grits thing.
I love that.
Mhm.
Scene.
Every single one of them gets made to look like a fool by both Vinny and Trotta.
Yeah.
So if you're from that area of the country, you might not love this movie because it makes your people seem to be bad,
Daft.
They're
easily
portrayed
manipulated.
Daft.
They're portrayed as the stereotypes that they ended up getting right for the New York stereotypes that they see in this movie. So it's kind of like a flipped perspective, like depending on what region you are and you're watching the film, like you see the New York stereotypes, but we're watching it and we're seeing what's meant to be the Southern stereotypes, which I don't know. You can look at it both ways, but I think the trial would have went on regardless of, because like they say, oh, we didn't do it. They would be like, I don't fucking care. You're still going to trial because we still got your car. We still like the whole innocent to proven guilty thing. But
Well, I'm saying, had Ralph Macchio known when he was being pulled over and detained that they were being investigated for murder, he wouldn't have waived his right to shut the fuck up.
I agree.
Because
with you
he
on that
goes,
one.
yeah, I'm willing to waive my right. I did it. It was a mistake. My fault. Because he thinks it's a 33-cent. Here's $1. Like, that's what he thinks. But if he would have known from the start he was being investigated for murder, he would have shut the fuck up until a lawyer got there. He wouldn't have waived his right to speak.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Which is how we avoid getting to how we got to the arraignment.
Yeah, but the thing is that they were going to the arraignment whether or not he waived his rights. Like, and that's the point Vinny makes, is that this is going to try, because he says, why don't you ask any questions? You can, it's an arraignment. And he's like, this is going to trial no matter what. You shot a good old boy.
Yeah.
You're two New Yorkers that shot a
but
good old
this
boy.
is that all transpires after they pseudo admit to it.
Right, but I'm saying that it doesn't matter whether or not they admitted to it. They were getting thrown in jail in that town. That's what I'm saying.
I think the outcome would have been the same regardless.
It would have been the same regardless. I all agreed that the antagonist was the prosecution. It makes it even more clear that the antagonist is the prosecution if you do it that way.
Because the judge even says, he's like, your clients seem to find themselves in this unusual position that say they didn't do it. So like, imagine how many times they must hear that to like, for people who are maybe guilty and they're saying, oh, we didn't do it. So it's like they're playing that card. In their minds, the boys are just playing that card that they didn't do it. So I feel like no matter what, they would have gone to the arraignment. Vinny would have inevitably fucked up the arraignment anyway because it was on him, not the kids. And then it would have gone to trial regardless. But having that everything leading up to it, like you were saying, it could change it a little bit, but I feel like the end result, they would have gone to trial regardless of like what was going to happen. Like if they knew beforehand or if they didn't, they just would have played their cards differently leading up to the trial.
It's also funny. Now, this is just my opinion. Just not even a nitpick. I don't know if it's a nitpick, but the irony, and it's obviously designed for the movie, but like in a real court case, do you really think somebody would use a piece of evidence to nail the defense, such as the tire tracks, when it's so quite clear that that's the only piece of evidence that's going to save them? Or are you just assuming that they're neglecting? Because is Trotta just so focused on getting the two boys in the chair that they're not checking to see if the Skylark could have left those tire marks? Or are they just so confident that it doesn't even going to matter, that they're just like, we're never going to get to that
I think
point?
they're so confident. I think that
because he thinks
he
he's gonna slam Pesci, which he does, and if it's not for Marissa Tomei, they don't get out of that situation. These boys wind up dead. So Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I think he sees Pesci walk in the door and goes, "Oh, here we go. This is gonna be easy. I got two."
Beating the Yankee.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. This is the hometown win. Like, this is gonna be an easy win. These New Yorkers come down to our town, shoot one of our kids, and then they bring this swanky leather-clad New York lawyer who clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I'm gonna win this. Like, it's not even. And then you could see the panic when Marissa Tomei says all that stuff, and he's conferring with the DA or whoever it is behind him. I'm assuming it's probably his boss. And they're like, it's almost panicked. And the DA is like whoever the guy is, he's like, almost like, go, like, do what I'm telling you to do. And the prosecution's like, how am I not, what? Do you see what I'm facing?
And then they wind
Like,
up
we
using
lose.
their own. They wind up using the own expert witness against them, bringing back up. Is
Yep.
everything that Miss Vito said true? Yes. Like,
Yeah, which actually, I don't, since he was a prosecution witness, I don't know if Vinny could recall him.
at that
Tipton
point, I think he
have to.
could.
I don't know. I think Tipton would have to recall him. He's a he's a prosecution witness. I don't think Vinny has the right to do that. He may. He may under circumstances, but
Doesn't he try to? Don't they try to object it, and the judge overrules it?
the first time, yeah,
No.
when he comes in.
The Vinny bringing the expert back up at the end. Or
I don't
am
think
No.
they objected the
No.
second time.
No,
He-
they
he
object
goes
to
back
Mona
up.
Lisa. Yeah, he goes back up.
Right, and then they ask the question, and that
Yeah.
whole deal.
Yeah.
Right.
But Vinny objects the expert the first
The
time.
first time, yeah. But
yeah.
they don't-
With
there's
that's
no-
not what I'm
Right.
talking about.
No,
I'm,
there's
I'm
no-
saying the prosecution.
I don't remember there being an objection. No, I don't think so. I think they just call him up. Which, I mean, it makes sense for the movie, but in terms of I could be wrong, but I don't think you're allowed to.
Well, I mean, they have the expert in there, and in this situation where they're not necessarily positive of Marissa Tomei's expertise, seems like the
I
easiest way
could
to
see-
confirm what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Because other than using the expert you already have at trial to confirm what she said, you have to take her word for it.
Well, the judge could recall the witness.
Does the judge? That's what I'm. Does the
No,
judge recall
Vinny
him?
does.
Vinny calls him.
Vinny calls him. He says, "I'd like to recall the witness," and the judge allows it.
Yeah, semantics.
I know. Well, we're talking court cases here, but take a quick break and then we'll come back with
Yeah.
our awards. Okay, cool.
Drop the OY and focus on you this October with Stay Thirsty Co.'s Droptober. That's right, every week in the month of October, brand new drops. On top of this, the promo code HAVOC, HAVOC, is going to get you 15% off of your total order. That's staythirstyco.com. Droptober, new drops every week the month of October. It's going to be sick. You want to get it first. Promo code's HAVOC.
All right, we're back, and we're going to do the highly esteemed Rewind Awards. Number 1, Best Acting.
Before we start this, I would like to say,
I know what you're going to say.
I know you do because I've already said. I know he does too because I said to him at lunch. I think we need to add an award called the Marissa Tomei Award for Best Dressed Character. Because I'm sorry, every time she's on screen, she is the best dressed character. Specifically with that white and black jacket. That gave me life. That gave me complete life.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
I purposely made sure we did my Cousin Vinny before Sweeney Todd too, just so I could have this award moving forward. I know.
Every film is
All right,
like, did you
I'll-
match up to Tomei? If it's not Tomei, then it's not it.
The issue is that it's got to go to Tomei. So
Yeah.
it's Tomei, and we move on now.
Well, yeah, that's what.
There's no.
It's like the Cecil B.
litigation
DeMille
to be
Award.
had.
I mean, we can discuss Joe Pesci.
No,
That-
if the award is named after a character from a specific movie,
Well,
then,
I know.
they can't be beat out in
Well,
their own movie.
That's why I was getting ahead of it now before we start the awards. That this is just
It's like
an
what we
award.
discussed with Jurassic Park. With if there's a quote from a movie in the opening or closing crawl, it automatically has to be a finalist for best quote.
I agree. Which
That's fair.
So, best acting, I'm going Marissa Tomei. I think it's really a two-person race here between her and Joe Pesci. Tomei is everything when it comes to this movie. She is this movie. With anyone else in that role, it doesn't work. Where I was argued DeVito would probably do Vinny good as well as Belushi. It
I
might
don't
not
think-
be.
I don't think
it might not
Belushi-
be necessarily the same, but I think the movie works. I don't think this movie works with anybody else who could have been up for the role at the time than Marissa Tomei.
I agree.
And the Academy agrees with me.
yeah, I agree.
Vinny agrees with me.
I agree.
Emily
with you.
agrees.
Um,
There we go.
I would say that Jim Belushi would not have done well in Vinny's role. I think John Belushi might have handled it better than Jim
I'm
Belushi.
surprised they would give it to
but-
John over Jim.
Like John was dead.
Yeah, John was dead already.
John was dead by this point.
Oh, he was dead by this point?
I think 90.
I was gonna say
maybe not 92.
No, he might have
you're
been
right.
alive
He
still,
might have
but he
been
was
alive.
a fucking mess.
He was
yeah, like he was too. I think
I
he was.
think he
him-
died in
yeah.
'93.
Too much of a mess, like to for
93
this
or
kind of role.
94. It was
Too
You're the
very-
one with. I have no.
I don't.
I
the
got
service
it.
down
Yeah,
here.
I got it.
But no, I could not see Jim Belushi. I could see Danny DeVito, but I don't think I would have liked it with Danny DeVito as much as I do.
There's
with
a level
Pesci.
of charisma and New York stamina, I guess, that Joe Pesci had.
I don't know who I was thinking of. We were all wrong. He's long dead. He was dead in '82.
That's what I,
don't know
thought.
who I was thinking of. Who I was.
Farley.
Chris
Farley.
Farley.
Farley was
that's-
94.
Farley was
Or
94.
90.
Well, no, because didn't Black Sheep come out? in
Oh
90?
no, he was.
Well,
90
Tommy Boy was in the early 90s.
Or was he 96?
I'm
'Cause
looking
I'm-
it
He
up.
definitely was after 95.
When was Cobain?
94. 'cause
Cobain was
al-
94.
That was almost a year to the date
Yes.
of my
Okay.
birth.
Cobain was 94,
97.
97, and then
Yeah.
River Phoenix had to be around there too, because I confused them.
Farley was 97. Cobain was 94. I was going to say, I thought Farley was 97 because I thought Black Sheep came out like 95, 96. And he was like, they said he was almost like dead at that point. when they were on
Yeah.
this set of
Yes.
Black Sheep.
Yes.
They said he was a mess.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure River Phoenix was in those couple of years too, where because when was Stand By Me? Stand By Me was what, 91, 92?
Yeah, that's big.
So he-
93, I think.
Okay, so yeah, he had to be around 97 too. 95? No, I don't think it was that early. But I remember him, Cobain, and Farley were all around like
93 River Phoenix. died.
okay, yeah. So they were I knew they were all around the same within like the same 10-year gap. Yeah, I go to Marissa
Stand By
Tomei.
Me's 86.
Oh,
86?
Yeah, I was when you guys were
Holy
saying 91,
shit.
I'm like, River Phoenix is a little fucking kid in that movie.
So the 86.
Jeez, 86. Yeah, that makes
7
sense.
years and he looks like a wow.
Well, puberty.
Yeah.
Puberty
'Cause
does that
was
to
he in
boys.
he couldn't have been in his 20s when he died. He was a teen. Wasn't he a late teen?
No, he was if he was in his 20s, his early. No, I think he was like 19.
I don't know where the fuck I thought 93. What the
Oh,
hell?
he
was-
died in 93.
Yeah.
So probably
River
that's
Phoenix
why.
93. I don't know. But I do agree that Tomei had the best performance in this entire film.
He born in 1970, died in 93, so he was 23 years old.
23.
Holy
Okay, early 20s,
shit.
yeah. He was baby.
22, 23.
Yeah. Baby.
Because you expect Joe Pesci to be Joe Pesci, and every film he kind of has that level of charisma. So he just killed it at his character, but I don't know if I can see anybody else doing it that way. But Marissa Tomei, I feel like she made the film what it is, and she literally bails him out, like figuratively and literally multiple times. And I don't think he would have, and he definitely would have won the case without her, but have gotten to that point of making that discovery or whatever if she hadn't helped him along the way. And I think he likes having her validation.
He probably would have never read any of the stuff in the Congress that helped him towards the end of the case if it wasn't for her going, he has to give it to you, you fucking dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's called disclosure. If it wasn't for that scene right there changes everything for Vinny.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. Don't read this book. Don't read this book.
There's so many great lines great moments that she has with him too. Like when they get back to town and he's like, I need to get a fucking suit. I need to fucking shower. He's like doing all these things. I get to fucking
Go shower, I'll get you fucking suit.
Yeah, she's like, you go fucking shower. I'll go get your fucking suit. Like that to me, and like I laughed because I did think about for like something like if me and you were in that situation, that's so something that we would be doing. Like I'm like, you go shower, I'll get you fucking suit. Like don't worry about like I'll handle this, you handle that. Like which we've done before.
Hey,
You know?
hey, what's in the pink bag? I'll let you shoot. Well, why the fuck is my suit in the trunk?
Well, I thought it'd be nice to have it all clean for you for your fucking
Surprise.
Well, it's surprise, motherfucker. So it's like very similarly to Jurassic Park with Goldblum. I had given best acting to Goldblum.
Mhm.
You and Chris had your own thing. But with Goldblum, I gave him the best acting, and then when we get to best quote, almost every line comes out of his mouth. Same thing here. I feel like with Marissa Tomei. Before we get into the best quote, do you disagree? Do you have somebody else you would give it to?
Oh, I'd give it to Tomei in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, Tomei.
Best quote, almost every single one comes out of her mouth. and then bam, a fucking bullet rips a piece of your head off. The whole bit when she's sitting, the entire deal. I know it's not a quote, but the whole deal. We could probably save it for best scene from the minute she sits down in the chair.
Oh yeah.
Probably save that for best scene, but there are lines in there.
I have. That sucked. I have a couple of them written down, actually. But one of my favorite lines from her was, "Oh, what are you, a fucking world traveler?" That's great. Like he's like, oh, I fit in more than you. I got cowboy boots, and she's like, "Oh, what, you a fucking world traveler?"
He gave you the files because he had to. What is? It's not because you're some bonder.
Yeah.
that whole bit.
That's great too. And then too, when she's asking, she's like, "How's Chinese food?"
Yeah.
That's a great.
People are gonna think you're a tourist.
Or they look down at the menu. It's like, I'll have breakfast. And then they show you the menu. It's breakfast, lunch, dinner. He just throws the menu down and goes, two of them.
Yeah. So some of the notes I wrote down, like the quotes I was, cause when she's sitting there and she's talking about the Chevy, she's like, because Chevy didn't make a 327 55. 327 didn't come out till 62, and it wasn't offered in the Bel Air with a four barrel carb till 64. However, in 1964, the correct ignition time would be 4 degrees before top dead center, and that to me, that's who she is. Mm-hmm. There she is, right there for you. You know, oh, my father was a mechanic. Oh, my brother's mechanics. My father's father's mechanics. My mother's father's a mechanic. I was a mechanic. My fiance's a mechanic. Like that is the typical Staten Island, Long Island, New Jersey Brooklyn person. And then too, like, oh, what do you do, Miss Mona Lisa? I'm an out-of-work hairdresser. Like, I'm an out-of-work hairdresser also, Mona Lisa. You know, like, I feel that, okay? Like, that is, we clearly all know someone like Mona Lisa.
That's a bullshit question. Can you answer it? No, I can't answer it. It's a bullshit question. Well, why is it a bullshit question?
It's a trick question. Like,
why is it a trick question?
And then she goes through because Chevy didn't make, which is great. The other great line from her was imagine you're a deer. You're prancing along, you get thirsty, you spot a little brook, you put your little deer lips down to the cool, clear water, and bam, a fucking bullet rips a part of your head. Your brains are lying on the ground in little bloody pieces. Now I ask you, would you give a fuck what kind of pants the son of a bitch you shot you was wearing? That is the classic. And the other classic, which I think is a couple from Vinny, because Vinny has with the grits scene when he's asking about the grits, and he was like, well, perhaps the laws of physics cease to exist on your stove. Were these magic grits? I mean, did you buy them from the same guy who sold Jack his beanstalk beans? Which, like, to me is like, that's the classic Goodfellas, like that's this Joe Pesci.
That's also love, like playing up the hyperbole, I guess, to the jury to make it extra fucking ridiculous. You know, to me,
100%.
I took it that way. Like, it's like he's finally realized who he's working with here and what's gonna work for him and what's not gonna work for him.
Yeah.
So because they made him look fucking stupid in the beginning. So now I'm gonna use very simple, childish, like fucking metaphors, I guess, to make this easy for you dumb fucking idiots to understand.
I think it's even more than that, though. I think it's that he's like, because it starts with, oh, well, how do you know it was 5 minutes? Oh, that's right, you were cooking breakfast. Well, what are you cooking? He was like, well, I was cooking grits. And he was like, oh, okay. And he asks, right, do you like them regular, creamy, or al dente? And the guy's looking at him, he's like, regular, I guess, because like, you don't.
But he walks him into that trap because he asks him like, "Oh, are they instant grits?"
Which is and he says, "No self-respecting Southern man."
He walked him right into that trap,
which is so great, and I love that we see Vinny sit down at breakfast and he's like asking all these questions about grits because he's honestly just curious about them. He's just that type of person where he's like, what is this? How is it made? What is this? And then him being able to use that knowledge and that information he gained in just a moment of being like, I'm fucking exhausted. I haven't slept because of slaughtered pigs or train whistles or whatever it be. So that I thought was a great line. And then I think one of the classic, like probably most recognized lines is the Lisa, I don't need this. Yeah. I swear to God, I don't need this right now, okay? I've got a judge that's just aching to throw me in jail, an idiot who wants to fight me for $200, slaughtered pigs, giant loud whistles. I ain't slept in 5 days. I got no money, a dress code problem, and a little murder case, which in the balance holds the lives of 2 innocent kids, not to mention your biological biological clock, my career, your life, our marriage, and let me see what else we can pile on. Is there any more shit we could pile on to the top of the outcome of this case? Is it possible? And then he's sitting there, he's like this.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Which I swear to God, I've seen my father make that face.
Her reaction to that was fucking hysterical too.
She's like,
Or
maybe it was a bad time.
The line that leads up to that with my biological clock is ticking, that whole deal.
Oh yeah, her lead up is great too, where she's like, my niece, the daughter of my sister, is getting married before I am. My biological clock is ticking. And he's like, oh Lisa, I don't need this right now.
And that's
like,
his moment of release because he's been holding it in for so long. Well, that and when he tackles the guy for the $200.
oh, that's so great.
You're gonna kick the shit out of me now? There are so many. Like my favorite is, excuse me, are you aware of the ongoing cholesterol problem in the country? That had me dying. And
Scoops out the fucking chunk
oh, a
of
lard.
fucking lard. I forgot what I was gonna say. What's the brand name of the shit? Doesn't matter. Not in the movie. Just
Oh, are you talking about like, I can't believe it's not butter or something?
no. Well, yeah, but there's a name for the shit.
I think it just said lard on
Margarine?
it.
No, in the movie it just said lard,
Yeah.
but there's no.
Okay, I can't help you. The other great scene too is when Mona Lisa gets stiffed and he goes into the bar
that's
and
what-
he's
that was
like,
the one I was
so
gonna
these
say,
are my
yeah.
he's like, oh, so that's a counter offer. That's what our
Yes.
law is called, a counter offer.
Like, do I have to kill you? What if I just kick the ever-loving shit out of you?
He's like, so my options are I get my ass kicked or I kick your ass and I collect $200. You know what?
I haven't had a good ass kicking in a while. I'll just take the 200.
Oh my god.
And then every time you see that guy, it's a great moment too, because he's like, oh, I got you $200 and it's rolled up in a ball. And he's like, is that really $200 or is that just a 20 wrapped over once?
That's
Spin
good
it
street
out
smarts.
for me. And then he just seems sticking it in his pocket. Like, there's so many great moments like that. The owl screeching him running out with the leather jacket and his shoes and no pants, shooting the gun. And then he's like walks in like, you know.
I got that motherfucker.
Yeah, like I'm like, you know, like he's back in Goodfellas, like just the swanky, you know, street talking guy that
Crisco.
Crisco.
Oh,
Oh, Crisco. But yeah, it's pretty funny. So
I'm going with bam, a fucking bullet rips half your head off. That's mine. That's the one I'm locking in as my favorite.
I said that one or the biological clock. I said either or. I think that whole him getting upset, because even reading, like when I was getting the research and I was like writing down that line, even rereading that line without having seen the movie and got like 8-10 years, I was still laughing. Like still hearing him saying it. When I got to the slaughter of pigs, I actually I had to take off my glasses. I was laughing so fucking hard at the line. Because I just remembered her face, his face, and then just well, maybe it was a bad time. Like, you know, just so great. So I would say either or.
Mine's got to be the cholesterol problem over that.
Oh.
That made me personally
That is
laugh
a nice
hard.
little subtle jolt.
It's good.
It's a nice little subtle
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, you know what the other line is? The two youths. That
The
one.
two
is
youths.
That's
Two youths.
Are you
quoted.
sure about that 5 minutes?
Sure about the 5 minutes?
Like what I use, like what I like to quote is, "Are you sure about that 5 minutes, or are you aware of the ongoing cholesterol problem in the country?"
You know what the other one we didn't say, which is a classic? Vinny Bag of Donuts.
Oh my god, that just I hear that.
I know.
Well,
Vinny worked in a bagel shop.
Yeah, I heard
Vinny
that
was
every
Vinny Bag of Donuts.
fucking week. It was Vinny Bag of Donuts, Vinny Pots and Pans, Vinny this. Oh my god,
Pots and pans.
it was fucking
Vinny
ridiculous.
Pots and pans. I'm gonna start calling you
Vinny
that.
Potts.
There wasn't. He was such a nice guy. He would come and be like, "Hey, Vinny Bagels, Vinny Bag of Donuts," and I'm like, "Hi," but they also called me Spider, which you know, to
Oh,
remember Joe Pesci
yeah.
movie,
That's-
Spider was the guy that Joe Pesci killed in Goodfellas, so they called me that.
Doesn't kill him. He shoots him in the foot.
No, he kills him.
Does he kill him?
He's like,
Like,
"Well,
Oh,
you gotta-
yeah, he
you
does.
gotta put the
Shit.
hole in."
I know he shoots him in the foot and then he kills him. It's been a minute, babe. It's been a minute since I've seen it. All right. The last time I watched it, I got about 15 minutes in because I just had to make sure it was still my favorite movie because of the opening. That's all.
It took you 15 minutes to realize that?
Yeah, wait. 'Cause
No,
what
no.
movie came out that made you have to watch Goodfellas again? to
The
make sure
Irishman.
it was still your favorite.
The Irishman.
Which good for you if you like that movie.
I'm
good
sorry,
for
I
you if
love
you
that
finished
movie.
that movie.
I did. I've seen it multiple times.
I haven't
hold
seen
it
it
up
in
very
its
high regard.
entirety, not just start to finish, when you put all the bits and pieces together, I still have.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
You didn't watch the whole thing in like 4 separate parts or whatever? Did you just?
Oh, I saw
I've
one
never
sitting,
actually. I've only ever seen bits and pieces when she's had it on.
Mhm.
which is quite often.
It is quite a
I've realized there's something about myself too when it comes to films. I like films that really show the nitty gritty of human character and hero characterization. I think that's why I probably like Scorsese a lot and why I like Nolan a lot, because their character, you're showing the nitty gritty of a person, you're showing the deep down darkness of people, and I think that's something that I tend to like. And those films tend to be a little dry. But The Irishman's freaking dry. It is a dry film.
It's dry, but you
Yeah.
like it for the characters.
The Irishman is also. It has the cast that it has for the sake of having it. When it like the fucking the De Niro nonsense.
Well, it's a
the
nostalgia thing.
agent fucking De Niro. Yeah, but yeah, Nolan, at least till this point, hasn't really done that.
He's
That's
just
why I
more
bring it up.
spectacle, which we'll get to that.
Yeah, but
later,
that's
you're
a
at a
whole different
point-
conversation
Yeah.
now. Between I wouldn't even compare Scorsese and Nolan in terms of directing or their choices. The only thing I would compare them on is their characterization, like not even who they cast, just the characterization.
Well, that's a lot of the problem with The Irishman for me, is the nonsense with the miscasting. Like using De Niro.
No,
it looks fucking ridiculous.
I know, I understand that, but
it looks ridiculous.
I know, but the thing is that like I've looked past that, and I'm looking at the film. I'm looking at the screenplay. That's what it comes down to. I'm looking at the screenplay and I'm looking at the cinematography. I'm not looking at the actors. I'm not looking at their aging. I'm not looking at how they're acting, because they're phenomenal actors. They nail the roles regardless if they look right or don't. The acting that they portray is great. So I've looked past all that because of probably nostalgia, and that's probably why I hold it at such a high regard. But I'm not gonna argue with people that don't like the film. I get it. I get why you wouldn't. But I also, Dunkirk is one of my favorite films, and I can't tell you how many people will disagree with me on that one too. So
But Dunkirk is different, I think, because I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But The Irishman, I think, has problems mostly because it's dry.
Yeah.
And slow moving.
Yes.
And long.
yes.
People who don't like Dunkirk struggle with the jumping timelines. And for me, that's just your brain isn't at a high enough level. So it's not for you, and move on. Because if the jumping timelines is such a thing for you that you can't follow along the movie, maybe the first time it's a little rough. The second time, halfway through the second viewing of Dunkirk, I got it.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
if it's that much of a thing to hold it back from you watching the movie or liking the movie, or if it's that big, I just don't think your brain functions well enough. And we just, and
You're
we just,
pretty much just saying you're not smart enough to watch the film.
yes, the same way.
Well, I
feel
mean,
like
Christopher
if you
Nolan makes
enjoy
that
The
pretty
Office-
clear.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
same way I feel like if you enjoy The Office, you just have a lower IQ than I do.
I like The Office.
You
I
don't
mean,
like
it's
The
not-
Office, or is it the greatest show ever made?
I don't think it's. I think Rick
Okay.
and Morty is the greatest show ever made.
So you're not an idiot. Because
No,
Rick
no.
and Morty, you require a little bit of.
yes, but we've had our argument about Rick and Morty, and honestly, I don't even want to go into
Yes.
it. I don't even want to go into it because it made me
I
mad.
say it's one of the smartest shows of all time.
I think it is very smart.
Thank
but
you.
I think The Office
Thank
is
you.
very fucking stupid.
Okay, but let me go. He's saying it's one of the smartest shows of all time, animated, non-animated. I completely disagree. I do not.
I think it's one of the
hold it.
smartest shows
They
in its
hide.
genre.
Yeah.
Yes, in its animation, I would say like in
Not even in the animation, like in the whole genre of what it is, like, because you can't put it up against something like, I don't know. What would you say is way smarter than it? Give me an example.
in terms of
'Cause I was gonna
animated
say-
or non-animated.
Just from a
Anything.
writing standpoint, from a
From a
storytelling
writing
standpoint.
I would say when we were discussing, I know I put Rescue Me on that list of how smartly that was written. I put Oz on that list of how smartly that was written. I'm trying to think. I had a couple that were Vikings is one of the best written shows I've ever seen due to its accuracy and its history. I mean, and the fact that Michael Hurst single-handedly wrote every episode by himself.
Now let's go genre.
Okay. So
Smarter than Family Guy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Smarter than American Dad.
Smarter than
Yes.
South Park.
Smarter than The Simpsons, but never gonna touch it in terms of how it's been well received and its gross and its
Yeah,
gross number. But I think it's smarter than The Simpsons.
I would agree.
Do you think it's smarter than South Park?
I think it's different. I don't.
Yes, I think it's smarter humor.
I think it's smarter humor,
I
but I
think
wouldn't
South
say.
Park and the guys at South Park are incredible. They're super smart. the way that they get shit out, like something will happen on Saturday and they'll have it out on
That
that
is impressive.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
The way I think South Park is kind of like the animated version of like the Today Show. Or the Tonight Show, rather. Not the Today Show.
I was like, wow,
Fucking-
that's interesting.
The one with Jon
yeah.
Stewart.
The
Daily Show.
The Daily Show. Right.
You know, Trevor Noah, it's
Yeah.
like the animated satire. Because
Right.
everything about satire, they don't write scripts for South Park because the world writes it for them.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
literally live tell satire as it's
But
happening.
Rick and Morty is all original.
Yes.
That's
and
why
this
I
is
hold
why
it
I
a
think
higher.
they're different.
Yeah.
This is why I think they're
and
different.
that's the thing. Like, if we're talking in terms of animated shows, yeah, I would put Rick and Morty at the top of the list. I also think I don't think Bob's Burger beats out Rick and Morty. I think Bob's Burgers is a very smart
Bob's
show.
Burgers connects with you.
It does connect with me,
Bob's
but I
Burgers,
do think
which
it's well
is the
written.
point
Yeah.
of all of these
But
shows.
I do think it's I think the jokes are pretty freaking funny, and the way it's written is comical. And the fact too
And the
that
chemistry with the
and
cast.
how it started, it was
Yeah.
never supposed to be about it was supposed to be about cannibals. So and Tina was supposed to be a boy, and all these different things. So there's all these different factors that
I didn't know
knowing about that, you watch the show and you're like, this is fantastic.
I will say this, and then we'll try to move on from this. Like now, this is a show I don't watch, but I hear a ton of good things about Archer.
I never watched it.
Because Archer, I feel like, is in that same category, and people fucking love it.
It was one of the first like mature mainstream like
Yeah,
animated
like rated
comedies.
M.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, on Adult
This was on
Swim.
FX.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on
Well,
FX.
they moved it to. I think they moved it to Adult Swim.
Yeah, it was on FX. I
Yeah.
believe it's Adult
Yeah.
Swim.
Well, you know what I think a lot of people put into this category and try to argue with me on it, and I'm going to fight them to the cows come home, is Big Mouth. Don't speak to me about Big Mouth. Do not speak to me
Are
about
you
Big
saying
Mouth.
it in a positive way or a negative
No,
way?
I do not like Big Mouth. And as a teacher of children, you should understand why.
Yeah, but I'm not showing that to kids.
No, but you should understand why I have an issue with it.
But I understand because it
I
portrays
think-
kids stereo. Like, yeah.
I think
it's no.
Big Mouth was never for us. I think we were aged out of Big Mouth by the time it came out. I think Big Mouth is for high schoolers and middle schoolers.
Right. I understand that, but my problem is that you're putting it into a market where anyone can watch it, and it's
There's
as
a
in
rating
it-
system on Netflix.
Yeah, no. I'm not talking about younger kids watching it. I'm not talking about younger kids watching it. I'm talking about there's people that shouldn't be watching that.
I just don't think it's
and
irrational.
we know someone who should not be watching that.
I know for a fact. I agree with you, but
If-
I think you can't fault the show for its.
There,
You're-
the
to
network
me,
for available.
I
there
understand
is
what-
there is somebody out there right now planning their next mass shooting. So based on that knowledge that there's at least one person in the world somewhere that wants to shoot up a building somewhere, does that mean that we get rid
No,
of Bang Bang?
my
is
feeling
dead?
about it is that even in a cartoon, you're sexualizing children. You're.
But that's why it's animated.
But that's
it
can't
doesn't
flip it.
matter though. But it doesn't matter.
That's tough though.
But that's my problem with it.
Yeah.
But it's
Like that's why I have.
I understand that, but it's in Nick Kroll's point of view on this, and I'm not quoting him, I'm just assuming, is that this is a reality and the best forms of comedy come from everybody's reality. Like the best comedians make things like George Carlin found a way to make fucking walking up the steps and raising your leg like there's an
Yeah.
extra step. Shit like that
It's
everybody
relatable.
does that, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it funny. Everybody has the weird shit of being 12 and like a gust of wind comes by the wrong way and now your dick's rock solid and you don't know why.
Can't say I've had that feeling.
You don't, but there's I'm sure
got it.
there's
Said everybody.
I'm sure there's a girl version of weird shit that happens when you're going through puberty that you just one day it fucking happens to you and you have no idea
Yeah,
why.
one day you wake up with tits.
Yeah, like one day
Well,
you
they-
start
yeah.
bleeding out of yourself. But I'm sure
yeah,
you're
that
I'm sure
happens
you're
too.
made aware of that before it happens to you.
Nope.
though. No?
No,
Oh, eh.
But
no, you
Neither
are.
here nor
But
there.
you are, but you just don't know.
We are on a
That's
huge
what's happening.
tangent right now, and as the host of this entire network, I'm fucking bringing it back. Best scene. Fuck yous both. Best scene. Nominees for me are the whole deal when Vinny first meets them in jail and Ralph Macchio's still sleeping and Stan doesn't know that he is my cousin Vinny. And he's doing the whole, listen, either I'm going to fuck you or someone out there is going to fuck you, but you're getting fucked. That whole deal, that's one of my favorite. Obviously, Marissa Tomei putting her dick on the table in the courtroom against everybody. That's like the big win for women too, which
Yeah.
I don't know how we never even got to this point so far, especially in 92. She's the fucking hero.
100%.
She wins
Yeah.
the case. And it's like the extra sweet because every single guy's like, oh, you know, cars were men, this and that. And it's so funny because the combination of Joe Pesci being the character that he's playing as Vinny and being 5'4", and as soon as the guy asks him the question, he slaps Ralph Macchio, puts his feet up, goes, "Watch this."
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Because he's like he's thrown away his masculine. When it comes to cars, she's fucking 10 times better than I am, and I'm gonna use that to my advantage. I'm not gonna try to use this toxic masculinity about it.
And you know what, too, we have to talk about in 92 that Vinny doesn't have toxic masculinity at all. Like, I mean, he does. He has macho-ness and like manliness in terms of like fighting and like the when he's dealing with the judge and like bravado. But when it comes to Marissa Tomei in every scene, there's never a sense of like that toxic masculinity.
And she's never passive about it. Like,
And
she's always
they are who they are with each other. This is their relationship, and it's really a give and take because she gives and he pushes back, and vice versa. Like they both have that. It is really nice.
It's kind of a reverse trope in cinematography where you have the couple that gets together and then they're trying to that figures themselves out, and then they figure their own shit out, and then they get together and they try to figure their togetherness out, where they already figured out who they are as their relationship, but they're trying to figure out who they are as their own individual people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true actually, and I do like too that the first moment we see Marissa Tomei and Joe Pesci, it is that moment of where he relies on her opinion, because the guy comes up and he's like, "Oh, you've got mud in the wheels." And he goes, "Mud in the wheels, never heard of that." And he looks at her and goes, "You ever heard of that?" And she goes, "No." And he goes, "She never heard of it." And he kind of he kind of chuckles and he's like,
asks for her validation a lot. Like, "What do you think these pants I got on? You think they're okay?"
Yeah.
Like he subtly like asks. He wants her validation and opinion. But
once he looks like an idiot in the very beginning, at the arraignment, from that point forward, he's constantly looking for validation, and there's only one person whose validation matters to him, and it's Lisa.
Yeah. There's one scene where you can tell that Vinny takes the lead role, and it's when they go in the bar for the first time to meet JT.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, she doesn't say
the
a
music
word.
cuts. Yeah. Well, that's the same way he just sits back at the end and says, "Watch this." That's like kind of hard.
Like they
if there was anyone for her to say, "Watch this" to, she would have done the same thing in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, they walk in, the music cuts, everyone looks at them, and this little Yankee wearing a leather jacket comes in. Yeah. Which one of you owes her $200? So, that scene also, like that one, between that one where he's like, haven't got my ass kicked in a while, that whole deal. The scene at the end where she suns them all, and the scene in the beginning, those are my three favorites.
I would say mine is from the minute he pushes her into the courtroom where she's got her arms across her chest and she's like fighting him, and she gets on a stand and he turns around and he's like, "Can I permission to treat her as a hostile witness?" when she's not answering a question. And she's like, "You think I'm hostile now? See me tonight." And the judge turns around and he's like, Who is this to you? And he's like, "That's my fiance." Explains the hostileness. From that moment until her winning the case for them, I think is the best scene. I really do. Because it's that final moment of like, you know, like we did it. You get that feeling of like, wow, like they won the case. And it was like almost like everything went up against them and they still won. So you have that feeling. And then you have the feeling of Marissa Tomei being like, you know, fuck all you guys. Like, and it's all men around her too, which I think is such a great thing. She is the only woman besides Mrs. Riley and like any like random people like that. But she's the only real woman in the
other than the jury. They're women in the jury,
but they don't have a speaking line. The only other woman who has a speaking line in this, besides like, oh no, we don't ever hear the mom, is Mrs. Riley, I believe.
Mrs. Riley, one juror.
One juror.
Who she's like, "Fry him."
That's right.
Like,
the one juror. Okay, yeah.
But
so
giving that real prominent spotlight, it's Marissa Tomei's show.
It's like, Marissa Tomei in the man's world.
I think the most signature scene from this movie is that from the minute he forces her into the courthouse through the state has dropped all charges. That's the signature scene from the movie, which is why I think it's ultimately going to win here. But I gotta say this. I was laughing the hardest at I haven't had an ass kicking in a while. You want to know why? I think it's because of Riggio. Because like I've seen Vinny fucking talk to punks like that. Like I've seen Vinny. I watched Vinny put a cigarette out on some dude at a bar one night. And like, but it was a similar deal like that. Like where Vinny was out with the guy and he was like, "Hey man, like Vinny was talking to some girl, and the guy's like, "Hey, man, she came here with me." And he's like, "So what? Like, what are you gonna?" It was a very similar altercation. Like, you're either gonna leave me alone, or you could try to kick my ass. I haven't gotten into a fight in a while.
Vinny's also the type of person that gets into road rage and throws a cup of coffee at someone's
Multiple
car.
cups of coffee.
Yeah, he's on a whole nother level. Like than anyone I think either of us have ever met. Then you've never even met this man, and he's on another level than anyone you've probably ever met. So
Yeah, this sounds extreme. You had me at the cigarette.
I'm sorry, he didn't put the cigarette out on the guy. The guy put the cigarette out on him, and he was
I
like,
didn't kill him.
he was like, "That was silly. What'd you do that for?"
That's the best reaction I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, Virgio is something else. You can also argue too on a really good scene, which I don't know if it's the best scene, but it's a scene I like, is actually the very ending when they're in the car. And right before he gets in, the judge is like, "Oh, I owe you an apology," and all this stuff. And then you find out that she made a phone call to Judge Malloy
Yeah.
to, make him
Lie for him.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, which I and I love that too, because he's mad about it in a way, because he's like, "Oh, I wanted to do this on my own," but it's also like, that's my girl. Like, she's always got my back. You see that, like, they, no matter what happens, no matter what each
And
other's go through, they always got each other's back.
A fellow Italiano from Brooklyn who inspired him to be a lawyer in the first place is the other guy that helped him out.
Judge Malloy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's-
No, I know. I
yeah.
knew that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't just Marissa Tomei. It was also the whole, that's the whole thing coming full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he fought over a traffic ticket. This guy took him under his wing. And once I saw another mook like me from Brooklyn could do it, well, why can't I do it then?
Right.
So it's very nice at wrapping the whole story up, bringing it full circle in one cute little line there.
Mhm.
I'm still going. I'm locking it in on the Marissa Tomei on the stand.
No, I'm agreeing on
Anything
that.
to add, Ben? We kind of stepped all over you.
No, it's fine. My favorite was that scene where he's talking about his friend. That was my favorite. Where he's talking about how we were just saying how he got brought up and all that stuff.
Oh,
and how
when
he
he's
started.
talking to the other
Yeah,
guy-
because
to the
that's
other woman.
that was unexpected to have such like gravity and heart to it. But my second favorite is in the scene at the beginning where he meets Stan for the first time, and he's like, "Either them or me. You're getting fucked one way or another." So that's tied for that's second for me.
You know what's also a great scene that we didn't talk about? When he's sleeping in the jail.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a great line too. I'll come bail you out. Nah, don't bother. I'm gonna sleep in jail tonight.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna stay in jail. Maybe I'll get a good night's sleep. And then the fucking riot breaks out in jail.
But he's sleeping like a baby.
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think is because
Well,
it's
which is great.
92
So,
Brooklyn. you know?
Picking fucking nits. My problem with this whole deal. Now you look past it because it's a fucking movie. But these people are from Brooklyn, where motherfuckers are literally like in the 90s, where people are getting shot at and stabbed on the street and shit. And even if you're in a nicer area, the J train's going by. The Z, like shit's flying all. It's New York. You never get a fucking quiet night of sleep ever.
Yeah, but New York, one thing I have learned is it's a constant stream of noise. So you might get that loud train passing by and stuff like that, but it's not the same as being dead quiet in the middle of the South. And at
Yeah, I guess.
4:50 in the morning, you got a freight train coming through screaming.
The freight train wasn't so much. It was the owl,
The
and
pigs.
the pigs,
Well, but think about it. You don't
the
have
steam horn.
that type of sounds though in New York.
Well,
you have car horns.
When I was
and-
in college,
know-
I used to live. One of my first apartments I lived in was right next to the train tracks. That's one of those things like it rattled the whole apartment that I was in every night at 1 a.m., 3:15 a.m., and then it would go again at like 6 or 7, and then throughout the day. But I was in class, so it didn't matter. So like when I saw that moment, I was like, I feel that. I really feel that.
Actually, said, and I think about it, I think my Uncle Mark had one of the apartments by, I think it was the L train, actually. And that place rattled, too.
My brother, we
Yeah.
were talking about it the other night.
Oh, yeah.
My brother's 5th year at college, his second senior year.
Super senior.
Correct. Pretty much all of his friends had graduated. So he wound up trying to find an apartment, and there was the fucking motel, like on the outskirts of
Oh my
Plattsburgh,
god.
that this guy converted into apartment. Say it was like an 8-room motel. He converted them into 4 like double room apartments. So my brother's apartment was 2 fucking hotel rooms that they
Wow.
like morphed into an apartment right behind the building. The only freight train in Plattsburgh went through at 4:30 in the morning every morning.
It's supposed to come at 10 after 4.
Yeah, that was great line, too. He's like, So last time we got is the heat check, which I don't know.
No, it's not the last thing, but yeah, Dion Waiters. This one, so Dion Waiters is a basketball player. A heat check is a sports term. Specifically in basketball, I guess, is the reference we use it for. It's a guy who would only play like 6, 7, 8 minutes, but while he was on the floor, he scored like 9 points and had 2 assists and like no wasted time. So for the sake of the award, it's somebody who is not in the film that much, but adds the most to the movie. For me, nominees are the Fryam juror lady, the guy when he's walking Ralph Macchio and Stan in past jail, and he goes, "Oh, that's death row," and they're like, "Oh, this and that," talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, you know, the chair's on the fritz or whatever, but there's no money in the budget to fix it." I say with all the times that we've broken down, and we already would have had enough money to have bought a new one by now. Like that little deal. And I'm trying to think if like there's anyone else that really qualifies.
The mud in your tires guy?
Mud in your tires guy qualifies. I just don't think.
I kind of like Mrs. Riley though. Mrs. Riley's sweet.
Mrs. Riley qualifies. The grits chef qualifies. The diner chef qualifies.
Would you say JT qualifies, or is he too big?
Who's JT?
He
The
was
guy
the
that
with
he
the
fights
money.
for the 200.
I think he qualifies.
I think he qualifies. Actually,
I
I
think
might
he fucking
choose
wins
him.
it, to be honest with you.
I might
I
choose
think
him.
it is him. Now that I think about it, I think it is him.
Because he's every time he is on screen, you laugh.
Yeah.
He's great.
Okay. Yeah, and it's good energy with him and Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
And then him.
And it's a constant thing. Like
Joe Pesci
okay.
jumping
Oh,
to
that is
reach
fucking
his
terrifying.
face and then both going
Does
down.
he punch him?
Yes.
Is that what
He
that is? 'Cause
jumps
it's like
up.
the littlest. The
Jumps-
littlest
both
it's like a
hands out,
short.
like-
yeah. To me, it looked like a WWE cross body.
No, because he jumps out further with his right hand.
Yeah,
but
it's like a little-
His left hand is needed to get the momentum, you know?
And he's like down on the ground, like, "Ugh."
Yeah, like he knocked him the fuck out. So I would say that. I'd say him.
And the Kristen Stewart Award for bad acting. Not necessarily bad acting, but overacting. I think Trotter, the prosecuting attorney.
Okay, you could say you could.
I think
yeah.
I think he's overgoing for it a little bit. At least at times. Like I think the only time he's really not overdoing it is that one scene in The Office when he's talking to Pesci, when Pesci thinks he's finessing him for the files.
Yeah.
And he does the whole Judge Malloy bit. Other than that scene, I feel like that guy's like he's just overshooting the entire movie.
Because he's playing into
It's
those
an
Southern
over-the-top
tropes.
character. It's meant to be an over-the-top character. So maybe he's actually doing it
Yeah,
perfectly.
see, that's the thing. I think he's playing it right.
But I get the sense that it's like a little overdone. Like if they made that movie in 2021,
Oh no.
it's nowhere near that amount of like over. There's a lot of things that aren't the same about this movie if they made it today. But I feel like watching it in 2021, the whole time I'm just like, this guy, you know, like he's really fucking going for it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
Maybe it's just me. Feel free to disagree. That's why you don't have to agree with everything I say.
I don't. It's not that I disagree, but I think he was playing it the way he was supposed to be playing it. Like I remember, like we talked about Scott Pilgrim, like you had mentioned about Brie Larson, and it's kind of I feel like in the same breath where like no, she was playing it exactly as she was supposed to be playing it. You know, it was supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be this.
I don't feel that same way about this character though.
No, I think
But that's
it
the
is.
same. That's the same argument that someone in the South or whatever could say about Marissa Tomei, like, oh, she's playing into those New York kind of tropes or whatever. Like we're looking at it from that flip perspective, you know.
It's not a trope at all. That's
But no,
reality.
we're saying that
I
that's
know,
not a trope.
I know.
But like someone who's not from New York could say that.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think actually you're right on that because
But it's not even the trope thing that I don't know.
He's
no,
playing
I
into
get
this-
what you're saying.
yeah.
I mean, like, listen, if
Even
we're,
physically, when he's walking around and doing his litigation, his steps are big. Like everything about it is over exaggerated. Like when you're practicing a sport, they tell you to over exaggerate everything because that when you do it live, you're gonna naturally slow down.
Well,
and
yeah,
then
like
you'll be doing
stage.
it the right.
Yeah.
It literally looks like everything he's doing. He's taking these big when he's going to the stand, he takes these big looping steps and Everything with his hand movement seems very exaggerated. Maybe it's just me.
But you know what, though, you could argue too is that a lot of lawyers, they put on a vibrato for
fine.
in front of the court, so that could be his shtick, where he's playing the good old Southern prosecutor. You know,
Part of it I felt in my head last night watching it too was also the one point where I thought about it to myself is like right as he's bringing the automobile expert up.
Mhm.
So part of it, I thought about this last night, is that he literally thinks he's minutes away. Like we're taking the knee and running out the clock and this thing's over. So he's like a little over giddy, I think, at that point.
Mhm.
So I had also thought about that. But still, giving this one isn't always about someone who did bad. Sometimes I'm just looking for someone to assign it to because not every movie has terrible acting in it.
I mean,
So that's why I modified it and went from bad acting to overacting.
yeah, you could, if you're gonna argue anyone,
Or
it's
hear me out. Kristen Stewart Award for bad acting. I got no problem giving it to Stanley either.
I would give it more to the expert, the automobile expert,
The automobile expert
than
guy?
Stan, because it's the same argument for both of them. But the expert is kind of like, I'm just fielding automotive, not like it's just kind of like, all right, guy, calm down. But
you also think that that's verbatim from a transcript. Knowing that fact now, does that change your mind that that is verbatim from a transcript?
I think it makes it more prominent. That
I think that's how an automobile expert would act on the stand. I just think that if you're getting up and you're a car,
Impossible to answer what if question. How much money did they slide this guy under the table to just say exactly what they said and nothing else and make this go as quick as possible?
what, like
Like the
shooting
actor?
wise?
The prosecution. No, like in the fictional world of My Cousin Vinny.
Oh,
How much money? What did the prosecution try to? Did they grease this guy? They had to have tried to grease this guy.
well, they got
No.
him in last minute,
Exactly.
so
Which is,
that's a good. I think that's a
I
good.
mean,
That's a
listen,
credible theory.
who
and
the
he
fuck knows?
comes in last minute out of nowhere only once it becomes apparent that Vinny's starting to turn the tide on the case.
And Trotter wasn't going to disclose it right away until they got to the courtroom.
Trout didn't disclose it.
That's what I'm
until they
saying.
got
Yeah,
it.
he didn't.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
And
he
the
does, he
judge
does, he
was in
calls
on
it.
it. He just told him something. He just told him, "I have something for you."
That's
tomorrow."
right. That's what it
and
is.
That's why Vinny objects.
And then
because
the
he
judge
didn't disclose it.
objected to it. Vinny objected to it. The judge overrules it. So I'm just spitballing here. Everything tracks to they could have easily greased this guy to say very few words and exactly what they wanted to say.
I mean, you could. The other thing you're arguing is that he is under oath. So
Well,
an
that's-
expert witness may not
I'm-
take it.
Within the scope of the truth. I'm not saying that the DA or anybody connected to the DA would paid him to lie. I'm just saying within the scope of the truth, there's a very, very narrow bottle of information, very small bottleneck of what we want you to spit out.
Right. That's why it is so rehearsed. Those questions.
It's a narrative
Right.
you're trying to make.
No,
Yeah,
I understand
exactly,
that,
yeah.
but with everything else, the judge not overruling the objection,
Well, you
and
probably-
coming in last minute.
I'm gonna also probably assume that this expert is an expert that is in that area.
Well,
So
you know
he's
what?
probably
We
also-
gotta nix the whole thing. Isn't he FBI or former FBI?
I have no idea.
He says
Does it? I don't
the
know.
expert witness. Yeah,
He said he worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
yeah. He was either FBI or former
Yeah.
FBI. All right, listen. I was just trying to have a little fun with it. If he was a federal agent, that don't mean.
I think that is a credible theory. Can I bring up a discovery I made about this film?
Please.
Have you guys heard that Vinny, his role was reprised by Joe Pesci
Yes, I didn't know that.
in a jazz album?
Yes, I
in
didn't
the
know
album, yeah.
I recently discovered the album, and I fucking love it.
And there's
that. You would.
there's 3 novels.
Really?
Yes, that too.
There's a novelization of the movie, and then there are 2 other novels that follow it. I believe one follows him in Brooklyn, like a couple of years later, and then the 3rd novel only came out in 2020.
There
That's fucking
also was
crazy.
supposed to be a sequel where he's studying
Correct.
law in England,
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. and that never came through. And
Tomei-
then the book.
No,
came through.
Tomei didn't want to do it,
Yeah, she backed
and
out.
then they ultimately decided that after trying to recast it, they were like, not recast it.
No,
'cause
rewrite it.
Rewrite the movie without her character,
Yes,
and
they-
then eventually it just got scrapped.
Yeah.
Correct.
I can't believe that there's so much lore in this
Um,
universe.
I was surprised to see that too. That there were 3 novels. The novelization of the movie, I was like, all right, that I get.
Yeah.
But then a sequel and a follow up to the sequel.
I just thought it was the Jazz album, and I listened to it on the way here. Like a lot of the songs, like I think it was like "Take Your Love and Stick It" or something like that. Songs like that. I was trying to make like a commercial in my head of like, oh, you know, swing with Vincent LaGuardia Gambini and My Cousin Vinny Sings for You. There's actually one
that had to get released as like a box set, right? Like who would have just went out?
Columbia Pictures released it, Columbia Records. So it wasn't even MGM. So I was like, maybe he was.
That's incredible, actually.
I was like, so was he maybe under contract or something that they're like, oh, you can do a jazz album, but there's a rap song on there.
I believe that.
Like Joe Pesci's like spitting rhymes, and I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm a wise guy, and I'm like, oh, I bet you are. Okay.
Well, real quick before we wrap up, Vinny did pull up his amount of IMDb ratings, so
I forgot about
we're
this.
going to do an over under.
We're not doing an over.
Oh, we're not doing under.
We're just guessing.
Oh, what's okay?
Saved
Sorry.
by the bell rules,
What's
baby.
what's your guess?
437.
652.
932.
God, Vinny.
But you got to remember, I've been on IMDb for like 10 years now.
It's about 100 movies a year, man.
Oh my god!
If you go through every movie that you've ever watched in your life, and like things that you've just seen on the regular or whatever, like you're naturally gonna get that list.
Okay,
up.
you know why I'm not going to do that? Because I have to run multiple businesses that you're supposed to be helping me in.
It takes 12 seconds.
Sir,
look at the
sir,
phone, press
stop
the button,
wasting your time
it's a button.
on
my
rating
scale-
on IMDb. They
my
don't need
scale
your help. They
is
don't
what
need your help.
matters in this.
They
in this
do not
industry.
need
Every now and then, I watch something that I know sucks just to make sure it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Just to confirm, because I'll have strong opinions on things and get in arguments with people about something I haven't seen in 10 years. And I'm like,
Yeah.
let me go watch that again just to make sure it's a liquid hot dog shit. And most of the time it is.
It's very rare to get a 1 on the Vinny scale. It's very, 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 very rare.
We got to rescore before we wrap up. I'm a holding pad on my 8.7.
I would go 8.5.
I'm locking in an 8.3.
All right. I got nothing else. We don't. I wasn't cutting you off. I just wanted to do the rescore before we.
No, that's
make
fine.
Sure we
No,
get
that's
it.
it.
In.
That's it. We should be done. I mean, this is our first. I think this is one of our first ones that's gone over the amount.
We went over the time of the movie. Well, you know
almost,
what?
Almost. I think.
I was gonna say you take all that Rick and Morty bullshit out of there, and we're still way under 2 hours. So it is what it is.
I think it was a good tangent.
Tangents can happen.
Tangents
sometimes.
happen sometimes. See you guys in 2 weeks. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show, whatever movie it was about. This is a generic pre-recorded outro, but we hope you had fun. We sure do. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
And the only prescription is more cowbell. We will not go quietly into the night.
Stay gold, pony boy.
I will not die sober. Get those fucking loose!
That's all, folks.